It is Tuesday evening, and it's the Tile Happy Hour. I hope you're having a great day. It's daylight savings time. Love it or hate it, I almost missed the show because it was still daylight outside. As much as I love it, I don't like that it's dark in the morning. But welcome, you have found the one and only place to get the best tile and stone information in the world right here, right now. Whether you find us on purpose or by accident, this is the Tile Happy Hour. And I am Craig, joined by my good friend, John Tedesco in New York City. John, how are you? Good to see you. Happy Tuesday.
I am doing great. Happy Tuesday to you. Yes, if you found us by accident, you're in luck. Lucky for us, because then they have no expectations whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So we'll go with that. The bar is low. Love it.
Absolutely.
Happy Tuesday, March. It's amazing, huh?
It's like almost the middle of March, which is crazy. You know, first quarter is flying by, and it's hard to believe. My tulips have bloomed, and it's hard to believe winter's over. We didn't get any snow, which is kind of upsetting.
Wow, that's interesting. No snow. Well, you know, you're down there all the way down south.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first quarter, 50% mark, pretty much, right? And being in the sales world, it's always a little bit of a trying time, you know, looking at your numbers and seeing where your projects are, and things are going well, but you know, there's a lot happening out there. And I'm glad to be here with you, Craig. You keeping a busy schedule. I know you have a busy schedule flying around the world.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. I've had a little bit of a break, but got a busy second and third quarter coming up. But that's okay. I love it. Doing a lot of training events in the next few months. And as most everyone knows, we've got a big event in April in Atlanta.
That is true. So we have the covering show coming up in Atlanta, Georgia. Most often the show is in Orlando, but it does have some second homes. And one of the second homes is Atlanta. This year, what is it? The 20th.
You ask me that every time. I have no idea how many years.
It's no, I meant the date. The date.
The date. The only date that matters is Tuesday, the 23rd, because that's the day we're broadcasting live from the Atlanta covering show in the podcast booth. And that's at high noon on Tuesday. So that's the day that matters. But the show, I think, is open from Monday to possibly Friday. So 22nd to the 25th.
It's a great show. Atlanta, love Atlanta. I think it's really cool. The other shows sometimes are in Chicago or Vegas. Atlanta's a great place.
I threw up our little brochure, our little asset tag about our show that's going to be on, and it is going to be exciting because we're talking a little bit about digital marketing and in the tile industry for 2024, and excited that our friend Sharon from Laticrete's joining us, and Nathan from the internet. I'm sure that's not where he says he resides from, but we're just going to say he's from the internet. And we're going to have a conversation just about digital marketing and how that affects the tile and stone industry, with all these people called influencers and ads and all that stuff. Maybe that you want to increase your business, your tile and stone business, and maybe pick up some nuggets. I think we're going to be throwing some out on Tuesday, the 23rd at Coverings in Atlanta.
Yeah. And can you put up the graphic one more time?
I sure can.
So let's just dig into that heading a little. So content to click. Social media is content, right? So that's number one.
Yeah.
Talk about when you're talking about social media, it's content. And so everyone out there on social media, wherever platforms you're on, it's all about content. If you're talking, if you have a little meme, or if you have a video, graphic, whatever you have going on, that's content.
Music video. Yeah.
So in our industry and all industries, content is king. and it's important to have content in all different formats. And we're going to be talking about the content, and then why do you put content out there? So we use the word clicks as a kind of engagement, right? It doesn't necessarily people go clicking or just it's kind of marketing today.
John, I lost your audio again a little bit. I don't know what happened. You sound like you're in a tunnel.
Weird.
Oh, you're back. Don't touch that.
All right. So,
I think what you're saying is, the content is whatever you're watching on your screen. Like my wife sends me memes and videos that are funny and all those other things that go on, but there is content specifically for products and for our industry. I think our team at Talbar does a really good job, not only on the corporate side, but even our A&D reps and you, John, you have a great social media history and profile and are always sharing stuff. And your hope as a business owner is to get the click. And if you get the click, that means you're closer to getting a sale.
True. So people are building their brand, or they're selling a product specifically, and where do you want to drive that audience? Is it just brand recognition, or is it clicking onto your website and buying a product or seeing a product? So whatever your reason is for being on social media, if it's just watching social media to watch a guy clean a dirty carpet, then that's that. If it's,
you and my wife have the same feed, I think.
Yeah.
She loves that.
It's strange what's interesting to people. But I would much rather, Craig, just thumb through social media as than just thumb through television in general. Like, I don't have like shows, like must-watch shows.
Yeah. Well, I had something that popped up the other night, and you tell me this is probably very unhealthy, but sometimes we'll go to bed and we'll watch a show, just in bed, before bed, whatever. And I can fall asleep. Like, it'll get, 2 minutes in and I'm out. And then, but the other night I was in bed and I was scrolling through the videos, and I did that for 2.5 hours straight.
Yeah.
And didn't fall asleep.
So let me ask you a question. So now you say to yourself, I got to go back to sleep. You close your eyes and you see like lights flashing in your head.
Yes.
You're just watching video, and
can't be helped.
It goes against every health expert that popped up on your screen the last 5 years saying, don't do that.
Don't
keep
do
the
that.
phone off, keep it 2 hours before, shut off your devices. And I am bad. And our company, Tilebar, we get sales reports every night, and it comes out at like 10 after midnight every night. And I'll be almost asleep, whatever. And then I hear like my phone just like ding, and I'm like, oh, that's my report. And it shows me all the orders that were shipped, all the orders that weren't shipped. Like, I can look at open orders, and 50% of the time I'm like, I shouldn't open my phone, because when you open your phone and you flip a light on, apparently your melatonin levels drop like significantly just by that light. And I'm an adult. I know it's wrong. I know it's bad. But I'm saying I'm not tired for some reason, so let me open up my phone. Next thing you know, it's an hour later.
Well, and then as humans, there's a process. When you open your phone, you check this, you check that, you check this, you check that. Then you can put it down and go to bed. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I check my bank account like 50 times. Like, it just click. It's like nothing's changed. Like,
you and my wife are the same person. I don't know. Something's crazy. She does it. I'll wake up at. We get up pretty early, 5:15 or so in the morning. And she'll go, did you know your check was deposited? I was like, when? At 3:30. I was like, why are you checking the bank account? It's 5 o'clock in the morning.
And nothing's happening. It's so
nothing's
weird.
happening.
Well,
but anyway, what I will say for everybody that's listening right now, put your phone down and go to bed, unless you're watching the Tile Happy Hour, because that is what where you are right now. And this is, I thought of this today. Out of all the things out there, all the content that we talk about that's out there, this to me is the most important hour in the tile industry in the world, because we do it all. We talk about design like we did last week, and I want to review that with you because you weren't here. And we talk about how to do things like tonight. We're going to talk about that a little bit. What's going on in the industry? If you have a question about tile and stone, this is where you can come to find the answer. And I don't know if there's any other place in the world that you can get free information about this subject. And whether you're here watching live, if you're watching live, let us know where you're watching from. I've got screens all around me. I can see that. If you're watching not live, I hope you're still alive. But if it's on a playback, we still want to read your comments. I told John our comments are up. Whether on whichever platform you like to watch from, and we love to answer those questions just like we do here tonight.
We really do. We're glad that you're here. So this is John Tedisco, co-host the Tile Happy Hour with my cohort and co-host Craig Cahoon. He's down in North Carolina. I'm up here in New York, and hopefully we're coming to you in your living room, or maybe you're already in your jammies and hanging out in bed. And out of respect to you, we're doing this at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., not midnight. We probably would have a crowd. It'll probably be a different crowd. They'll be just high. It'll be like, wow, movement joints.
We'd have to get a better light show, maybe.
Yeah, but they're thinking movement joints has something to do with pot. They're like, wow. So I put on my social media, Craig. We have informative and exciting topic, movement joints. I actually meant that, and later on, I said to myself, I should have put in parentheses. Of course, if you're into tile, it's exciting. Otherwise, maybe not. Wait, hey, do you have a drink tonight?
I've got my traditional Leroy cup with some sweet tea. So cheers. Oh, a glass of wine tonight.
Yeah, I felt like a glass of wine.
I love it.
So welcome everybody to the Tile Happy Hour. It's Craig and John. Come see us in Atlanta. We'll be on the high stage. I'm working on some new swag for us. So if you come say hi in Atlanta, I may have a little gift for you. It won't be much because we have a very small budget, which is nothing. And so please come say hello and come watch the show with us. That's the cool thing. We're going to have some friends there. A lot, of course, if you know the tile and stone industry, there's going to be tons of your friends there. Bring them all to the live show, and let them make us audience too, right, Craig?
Say again.
We want questions from the audience.
Sure, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we only have an hour. Like here, we can talk for as long as we want to because but there we only have an hour. But I want to come loaded with some questions because I don't claim to know anything about digital marketing, even though I'm on social media a lot. I'm a novice at it. I try to study it as much as I can because I do believe it's the future of our business, and the content creator market is a $1 billion industry, $1 billion plus industry. And we as the tile industry have to harness that. We've got to take it in on that. I mean, there's ads playing between those videos that are keeping us awake, that are selling products, and people are, and so we need to know how to leverage that for our businesses, whether you're a contractor or you're a distributor or a manufacturer, any of that stuff. So I want to learn as much as I can.
Well, that's why I think this topic is really cool, because it could appeal to anybody. What segment you are in the industry, because we have an influencer. Is that his title, influencer?
I will have to ask him how he wants. He is an influencer, yes, content creator. But I think his main business, and I'm talking about Nathan Merrill, which is Vision Tile and Stone. If you follow him on Instagram, cool Instagram page. He is a unique story every day, and I just love watching him. But he's an artist at heart, but I think his main job is a tile setter.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's also cool is then we have it paired up with Latticrete, which to you and I is like really cool and fun. But in the tile world, grout and thin set is the least sexiest part of a tile. And here they have, full-time person handling all their social media and all their marketing,
Yeah.
digital marketing, and probably teams of people like Tile Bar has. And I'd like to hear some insight on how that all came about, what they're currently doing, how they see that working, and what they see.
And the return, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
What's the return on that investment? I mean, obviously teams of people are expensive,
Right.
so there has to be a return out there. Welcome those that are just joining us. We're kind of previewing our coverings talk and podcast, which is going to be super exciting. But John, you weren't here last week. And when you're not here, I struggle because I get lonely.
All hell breaks loose. I know.
But we brought in a friend of yours, so she felt lonely too, because it was like we were on a blind date,
Right.
because we'd never met until we were online face to face. But Nava Slaven was with us last week, and we kind of really just did a mock design and helped out our good friend Josh, who jumped in too, which was a great episode a few months ago where Josh is doing this renovation, and John and I tried to help him. And what was so cool about it is I'm talking to you in the camera, were actually responded and asked questions, and Nava reached out to Josh personally. And so I thought, hey, matchmaker match. There's a song there. I don't know it. My wife would. And we brought them together online to kind of talk about the next steps in that renovation. And John decided to take the day off.
Yeah, I took the day off. Actually, went up to, I was invited to meet with senators and assembly people in a New York State Capitol. So we left at 7 a.m, got back at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And because Albany State Capitol is like a 4-hour ride from Long Island. And we talked about people, we were talking to lawmakers and legislators about things that impact our industry, the building industry, which impacts all of us. But I was able to jump on and watch some of the show. It was really cool. It was pretty fun to just have to be a spectator. Nava Slaven is a great designer. She's an award-winning designer. She's involved in a lot of organizations like IDS and ASID and NKBA, and she's a Tile Bar kind of. She's kind of
an OG from what she said.
Yeah, she definitely was. She remembers being solicited by the first 2 salespeople in the company, and she's been a client ever since. So it was fun when she happened to just come across the show on my feed, I guess, a few months ago. And she jumped in and we connected with Josh. That was a lot of fun. And
shout out to all those in LinkedIn, which is I think where Nava was watching.
Oh, yeah.
John's LinkedIn is happening. I can't get my LinkedIn on here at the same time, which John's LinkedIn is a lot more active than mine. That's just a limitation of the software we're using. But shout out to all those in LinkedIn land.
Yeah, that's cool. So today's topic is, so if you're in the tile business, you may have heard the word movement joints, right? And movement joints is really important. And there are certain scenarios where it's more important than other times. And so Craig, I'm going to ask you, is there a textbook definition or
actually there is? I mean, and I want to say hello to Adam. Adam, thanks for jumping in tonight. But right here, if you know anything about the tile industry, this is, we call it the Tile Bible, the TCNA handbook. And when you're thinking of movement joints, you go to a certain section, and that's called EJ 171. If you've never heard of that, if you're in the tile industry, you need to review that because it's very important. And I've got a little short video here to show you why it's important. Thanks again, Adam, for jumping in. You want to see that video, John?
I'd love to see it. Nava just texted me, "Are you guys live now?" So I'm just sending her a message like, "Yes."
All right, so here is what happens, John, and we're going to be on the screen with it. Okay, here's what happens when you don't use a movement joint.
All righty, this looks like a time warp thing going on here.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's some angry tile.
That is angry tile.
So
But
just
if
in knowing, like,
we'll
somebody
roll
see
that
this
back and show it
coming?
again.
Did somebody see this coming and they were
Yes,
just
because
filling
you
it?
can see here. Let me pause it right here. You can see this is probably 12 by 12, 12 by 24 joint. You can see the joint that's in the center of the screen. It's tinted up, so that tile has moved and already tinted up, and it's working its way down. And there's no sound. Well, there's some sound on the video, but it's not very good. And there's a couple of curse words on the. And this is a family program, so we're not going to play this. but but you could hear the floor creaking and cracking, and so whoever's floor this is, I don't know these people, pulled out their camera and filmed it. And so the floor is moving, and the tile just had enough.
Wow.
And broke.
That's pretty dramatic.
So it's a couple of things that are good. Number one, the tile withstood pretty good, and the grout did also, and it finally had enough pressure and cracked the tile, and it blew off the floor. That obviously is an extreme case, but
so what exactly happened there?
So what, and it's hard to tell 100%. Here, I'm trying to find my mouse so I can get that off the screen. It's hard to tell 100%, but what I'm assuming has happened is they have tiled that room wall to wall, and there is no joint, no soft joint between the exterior walls.
So grout would be not considered a soft joint.
Grout would not be considered a soft joint.
Okay.
So this had no place to go, and as you know, and I'm working on a training document that we actually have our company-wide training on the 21st. That is going to be kind of all about this, and everything moves, whether it is the hardest metal in the world to the softest cotton ball. Everything moves, and it's temperature plays a big part of that. So a lot of times when you have a building that is new, it's installed unconditioned possibly, or the conditions change when they start loading the building. And that's when normally the biggest movements happen, is in a brand new building, and they're just turning on the HVAC and everything starts to creak and move. And I'm sure your house, when you turn on the heater for that first time in the summertime, you'll hear things move. And if you've ever been in a place where the windows don't open, they're swollen shut. All those things have to be taken in consideration when you're installing tile.
Now, are you saying that those movements are normal? Or
Yes, absolutely normal and expected, which is why, TCNA had to create a solution for that, because as you know, tile it's hard. It does move, but it moves very little compared to wood, which, if anybody has gone and bought a 2x4 from Home Depot or Lowe's lately, wood moves. You've seen it. They look like corkscrews and question marks. So, but the tile doesn't move as much. So the different rates of movement cause a problem. We know that, so we have to prepare for that. And the way we prepare for that is a movement joint. And there's different types of movement joints. And there are different situations when you need them. For instance, the video we just watched, they needed a movement joint around the perimeter of the room. Depending on how big the room was, they may have needed another one in the middle of the room.
So you're saying if a building or a room somehow moves, for some legitimate reason, temperature or settling or something in between, everything, even something rock solid as a tile floor, can move a little, and that's okay as long as it has a little room to move.
Right. And really, it's not the movement, it's the difference in the movement between what it's bonded to and what it's adjacent to. So one of the things I tell our team all the time is anytime somebody buys grout, they need to be buying We sell Latticeal, which is my suggestion for a movement joint, because every installation needs it, whether it is at the perimeter of the room, like what we just saw, or even a backsplash that's up against a countertop or window casings. You need to use this to absorb the movement.
Now, I see where I've seen it used for countertops because there's a lot of, a lot of demand on a countertop, right? Between temperatures and moisture and heat.
People standing on them.
Yeah, kids jumping up and sitting on it or whatever. I haven't seen it used too much on like a bathroom floor, small floor around the perimeter. And you alluded to this before. The bigger the room, the more need for a movement joint. But do you still stand by the joint between the wall and the floor of a small bathroom should get a soft sealant?
Absolutely. And the good thing about in a small bathroom in a residential situation, normally there's wood casing around or wood baseboard. And a lot of times I would tell the team, hey, listen, you don't have to use this, but don't grout it in. Leave it open, leave it an open air, and then the shoe molding will cover it. Normally you have a shoe molding that attaches that is, 3/8, half an inch, and that covers it. That gives you the movement.
Unless you have tile on the wall, then that's a different
Unless
story.
you have tile on the wall, then you need to have a soft joint. So my question:
we recommend tile everywhere.
Yes, tile everywhere, floor, ceiling, inside and outside.
Front lawn,
roof makes a great roof.
Yes.
Do you know what this is?
Well, I would think that.
Can you answer that question?
I feel like silicone is a type of caulking.
I thought that too. Google disagrees.
Really?
Google says, hold on, resituate here. Sorry about that. Google says that caulk is considered, and all those out there in the interweb, correct me if I'm wrong, that caulk is standard an acrylic based material. And so when we think of the acrylic based material, most often you think of like a door and window trim, like when if you do any touching up on your walls, you caulk that, and it's a lot easier to use. But I did some testing, some research. Silicone most of the time is antibacterial, and it's also 5 times more flexible and 5 times stronger. And it's pretty amazing the difference between the two. So when you think of movement, if you've got something that gives you 5 times the more flexibility, what are the odds of something dramatic happening like in that video we just saw?
And that's compared to an acrylic caulk.
That's compared to an acrylic caulk.
That are not even acrylic, right? That are even cheaper.
I haven't seen anything that was non-acrylic in a long time. I know back in the day there used to be some, and I don't remember, maybe it was latex caulk.
Yeah.
I know you can sometimes see a acrylic latex or latex / silicone, which are kind of a hybrid of the two.
Is it really is it really a hybrid of the two, like a silicone in that when it says latex silicone?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
If you know the answer to that, let us know. But I do know that most grout manufacturers have a silicone sealant that matches the grout color that you buy. And
is that the go-to in silicone? Like if you're a grout manufacturer and you want to create a caulk, and I'm using caulk, I can't say caulk with an L, caulk. So caulk. Is the formula of choice silicone, or is it sometimes acrylic?
I think in the industry, yes. I believe they are still producing and buying acrylic based just because of the cost savings. But everyone I talk to says use silicone. So that's what I teach when I talk about it. I always talk about silicone because truthfully, the price difference doesn't matter once you've had a failure. Are you really going to be upset about $3 more a tube?
Yeah, it's definitely not the cost. It's definitely the skill set, because the regular caulking is usually water cleanable and doesn't
Yeah,
smear, and
it's a lot easier to
it's
install.
a big difference. But we do highly recommend you figure out how to do it, because it literally is permanent. It's pretty permanent, right?
Yeah,
To use a silicone sealant.
yeah. I'll tell you a story because I like to tell stories. When my wife and I bought our second house, when we first moved to Raleigh, after we moved out of an apartment, I was new in the tile industry. I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I can't remember. But you remember the fireplaces always had the builder grade stone around it.
Yeah.
Well, my wife said, I'd really like for that to change. I'm like, well, cool. I've got some extra black absolute 12 by 12 tiles, which,
Fell off
2005 or 2010 was probably pretty popular.
Yeah.
And I said, I can bring it home and I'll tile it. So that's what I did. I brought home the black absolute. And I was like, man, these joints, I installed it with a 1/16 of an inch joint. And I was like, I don't really want to mix up black grout, because if you know anything about grout, black grout is the worst. It stains everything. It's terrible. So I said, I'm just going to pick up some black caulk and I'm just going to caulk the joints and be done with it. Well, I didn't know the difference at that time between caulk and silicone. I picked up black, checked out, cut it open, squirted it out in there. It was black silicone. I had it everywhere. And you can't get that stuff off. It is very difficult to get off. I had it all over my fingers. I had it on a rag. Luckily, I didn't get it on the carpet, but it was a nightmare. And that is the downside to silicone. Now, there are some tips and tricks that I'm going to reveal in a video coming out in the next couple of weeks that you can do. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can really make a mess with silicone.
Yeah, because and it just gets worse. It's like, do you ever use a hot glue gun?
Yeah.
So in the tile world, we use hot glue gun a lot to like glue tile samples, and God forbid you get glue on your finger. It's like second, third degree burn. And the worst thing you could do is try to like take your other finger to like wipe it off, because now you have burns on both fingers. So
right.
It's the same thing with silicone. Like if you get it here and then you go, oh, let me do this, and then it's greasy. That's the only way I could describe it. I don't know if it's kind of greasy. And the only trick I found with silicone is if you do spill some or you get some in the wrong spot, don't smear it thin. Let it dry thick.
Yeah.
And then you can take a razor blade and peel it off.
Yep.
Because, so let me guess. I'm going to guess that your secret tool bag includes blue tape.
Blue tape. And do you know the what I put in the spray bottle?
I do. Some dial soap.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's that's the thing about silicone is it won't stick to anything that's got soap and water. It won't bond to water, but it won't clean with water. It's weird. You don't want to grout a wet joint is what I'm trying to say. But if you want to keep it off of, like, when I'm tooling the joint with my finger, I take the silicone of the soap and water spray and spray it on my finger, and you can wipe it right off. Moving along. So I've actually gotten out of using tape because I find that works better. If I put a thin enough bead in it to where it stays inside the tile joint, you can spray over top of it with the soap and water. Use your finger or a popsicle stick or a spoon, whatever you want to use. Pull out the grout, and it won't stick to the edge of the tile or the top of the face of the tile, and it'll come right off.
Craig, do you ever recommend? I mean, it sounds like you're talking grouting with silicone. I know when you did your fireplace, whatever that fiasco was, but as cool as silicone is, I mean, silicone is an amazing product.
Yeah,
I don't see anyone in the industry saying just become really good at using a caulk gun and silicone all the joints. That just never happens. Like, you're not going to silicone the whole bathroom, are you?
I wouldn't say it never happens. For a bathroom, no. I will say the time where I have used it, back in the day in the stone industry, that was what was between two stone panels was, and it probably wasn't silicone. It may have been a different kind
Right.
of sealant. But when they started coming out with thin gauge porcelain, I did a bank, and the porcelain panels were 3 foot by 7 foot or something like that. And the more I thought about it, I had to put in soft joints anyway. It was an exterior installation, which means that it was getting a lot of thermal expansion from the sun. So I just told the team, I said, "Listen, I'll buy you all latticeil, which is what we used, and we latticeiled every joint of that bank, top to bottom. There's no grout in that at all.
Right.
So it did a couple of different things. It seals everything in because it's completely waterproof. It gives it the movement it needs, and you don't have to do grout." Say again?
It's a movement joint party. I mean, every joint's a movement possibility.
Absolutely. Oh, Adam, denatured alcohol spray bottle for silicone dries faster until. There you go. I've heard the denatured alcohol. I've never tried that. Thanks, Adam, for that tip.
What about just drink alcohol when you're?
I think you drink alcohol and it's immediately clean because you don't care how much you've made a mess.
Until the next day, you're like, "Oh man, this is bad."
But no, it's a very rare situation where you just silicone all the joints. I mean, I did it because I was lazy, and that's what I get for being lazy, and I thought I was smarter than I was. But there are times for that bank installation that it made sense.
Right.
Because the panels were so large.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. So you're walking down the streets of Raleigh, North Carolina, and there's a cement sidewalk. I guess you guys have cement and electricity down there?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do.
So every once in a while, well, the sidewalks have like a little crease in them, and every once in a while there's this weird tar and thick stuff between two pieces of concrete. Is that a expansion joint or a movement joint?
Yep, same concept. There's expansion and contraction. Now the good thing about a sidewalk is normally it can expand into the dirt or whatever.
Yeah, it's usually not butt up against building like a courtyard with
something hard
from sides. Yeah, I get that.
But a lot of times you've got to do that because concrete always cracks.
Right.
And the reason there are joints in concrete is they want them to crack in those joints. So when you're walking on that same sidewalk and you see a pre-made joint into it, it's not for fun. They do that because they know that concrete is going to crack, and they're trying to make a weak spot for it to crack there so it doesn't crack somewhere else. And the same thing is true for commercial flooring. The lobby of a building that's poured concrete, they know that the concrete's going to crack. And if they don't put a joint in it, a saw joint or a control joint, one of those joints, it's going to crack on its own. And when it does it on its own, it's going to be like a lightning bolt. It's not going to be straight. Right. And that's much harder to fight against. So that's why concrete's a pretty unique material. And it doesn't look complicated, but it is, but it performs really well. It's my favorite substrate to put tile on, personally.
Well, you used the word operative. Used an operative word, which was control. That's what I was trying to say. So controlled is right. There's going to be movement, and maybe some kind of shift in material, and you want that shift to be in the soft joint. So if the soft joint cracks or peels, it's no big deal. As a matter of fact, if you're walking down the streets of New York City, it's very common to see a guy on his knees in the middle of people walking, caulking this gray kind of matter between sidewalks, and then they put like a little thin piece of melamine and duct tape it. And this must be some protocol where maybe it's an ordinance or something, but there's people who that's all they do. They go around, and I guess if you own a building and in front of your building, they'll caulk these like expansion joints, whatever, and then they put a little masonite on it and they duct tape it down for a few days, And it's a very common, I see it, people don't see it if you're just not in the tile business.
You're not paying attention. Yeah,
You're not paying attention.
As tile industry, we have neck problems because we're always looking down.
Yeah, and other people just worried about getting mugged, and we're just
That's right. Well, I was wondering where you were going when you said every now and then I see a guy on his knees in the in the sidewalk. I was like, I don't know. It's a family show, John. It's a family show.
True.
But those things and what this is something I was working on today as I'm working on a training for Lunch and Learn for designers. Is you've got to design this stuff ahead of time. When you're thinking about this building that the owner has hired you to put in, if you don't design in the things that make it work long term, somebody looks like a fool. Now, most of the time they point at the contractor. Why did my tile crack here? Well, your tile cracked here because there was a joint here, and this joint was not engineered by the engineer, and it wasn't labeled by the designer, and it wasn't brought into the pattern so that we all look like heroes, but nobody knows it because it never fails. So that's one of the things I was working on today is as you're working through these buildings, understand that these things are needed and go ahead and design in a control joint, because the last thing you want to do is have a really complicated pattern or water jet that you've got to cut a line through and put some gray caulk in 5 months after the building's done.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose of using a nice looking product. You might as well just put concrete down, paint it. So yeah, you have to be really strategic about where you're going to put it. Well, not only do you should be strategic, there are codes or guidance on that. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, there's definitely recommendations, absolutely, to follow, and how often you need it, depending on how well lit the space is. Because if you've got an area that never gets any sun, it's not going to move as much as the area that gets sun.
So you're saying the temperature variance is going to be diminished if it's shady all the time. If it's an area that gets sun in the middle of August, and then at night
there's a heat cycle.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you got to design for that.
Is there, in the tile world, is there anything other than, I mentioned those things outside. I've seen them using sidewalks. They're like pressed pieces of tar or something. I don't know what they are.
Yeah,
but
I'm not sure what it
is. Material. But in the tile world, interior, are you ever using anything other than just like something that's caulked out, or is there something that's manufactured that you can put in that's expandable?
They do have some manufactured joints for, like, if you've got two buildings that meet and come together, then it's normally a mechanical joint, and that's kind of on a whole different level. Right. That brings it together. There are some pre-manufactured silicone joints. If you're familiar with Sluter or Blanquet or all those, it's really just two L angles and it's already pre-caulked for you. Some of those things we would use. The trick is then it normally doesn't match your grout color.
Right. So it's a gray, and then, it's a gray strip. But the one thing you do know is you're getting the proper joint. Right.
Yeah. Width. And then sometimes you can put that down and it's going to be where it's going to be. For instance, if you've got a straight joint in your floor, you want to put that metal, you can epoxy it to either side of the joint, and then you can tile to it.
Yeah. So even while you're installing, it's kind of another guidelines, another wall, another, guide that you can use. It's not sightly, it's unsightly, but it's less unsightly than cracked tile. So
that's the balance, and I would never suggest anybody take that gamble.
Now, what about the size of the tile? Does that play a role into the need of an expansion joint, movement joint?
Not necessarily the need. It can play consideration if you're using like a crack isolation membrane or something like that. Sometimes the tile size comes into play. They make some really good crack isolation membranes, whether it's liquid or a sheet membrane. And if you have a joint or something that you want to cover and not do the entire floor. For instance, you got 10,000 square feet and you only want to do the joints. They have to go a certain amount past the joint, and that's dependent on your tile size. But that's really the only time tile size comes into consideration.
Right, but actually, you just talked about this crack membrane. Crack, what do you call it?
Crack isolation membrane.
So, isn't that another way to address this? But it's done in the substrate.
You can address it that way, but it does not get rid of the need of a soft joint. So the things that crack isolation, there's a couple of things. Number one is cheap insurance. Most crack isolation membranes can go a minimum of 1/8 of an inch in horizontal movement. That's like this. Nothing can do anything for vertical movement, but horizontal movement, most of them can cover 1/8 of an inch. But you still need that soft joint. But for instance, if you've got a pattern and you need the joint is messing up your pattern, and it would be better if you move that joint over 4 feet.
Okay.
Crack isolation membranes can give you some flexibility of where to put that joint.
Oh, I see. So if you're using a crack isolation membrane, you may be able to have a little more flexibility in where you're putting the joint that you're going to see.
Correct.
Because that's gonna handle a certain amount of movement first, and then it'll go to the joint.
Correct.
Very
Correct.
interesting.
Yeah.
Now, on that floor that we showed that video of, I mean, that was dramatic. I mean,
yeah.
Was that building really moving a lot, or is it just that it just built? I can't imagine how that pressure built up. That was crazy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that was pure building movement, and crack isolation wouldn't have helped that.
Yeah,
I'll just say that now. Everything was under too much tension. You know, we deal with this a lot in LVT floors. Have you ever had a complaint about LVT that's cut too tight around the room, and then the LVT will tent up?
Right.
Heard about that?
But I'm familiar with that. Yeah. So you're supposed to leave. I think it's 1/8 of an inch, also, right, around the perimeter.
I think it's 3/8, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 3/8 around the room, and in those cases, you always have some kind of baseboard, right? If you're doing an LVT floor, you're not going to have ceramic walls. So you're going to have a baseboard. So you just stop the LVT, the luxury vinyl tile or the luxury vinyl plank. You stop it 3/8 of an inch away from the wall, no caulking, no grout, no nothing. And then eventually you come putting a wood base or even a rubber base, right, around the walls. But it hides the fact that the tile didn't go all the way to the wall. And that's where your movement is. And what you're talking about, Craig, is that it's not going to crack an LVT. I mean, that's not highly unusual, but it may make it buckle or do something
tent up.
Funky.
Yep. And so obviously, because LVT is a lot more flexible, so it doesn't take near as much pressure to make it tent up than it does the tile. But you know, you know, you've got a drastic change in temperature in a short amount of time. I mean, I'll tell you another story. It was winter, and we had just finished. We'd finished a project, and I had 4 crates. Just, you know how stone comes in crates, and these crates, and they're super dry wood. And I told my son, I think he was 13 at the time, I said, hey, listen, break those crates down and put them in the outside fireplace. I don't want to haul them away. We'll just burn them. Well, I didn't mean for him to put all 4 crates in the outside fireplace at the same time. Well, the outside temperature was about 24, 25 degrees. It was cold. Well, he got that fire so hot, stones were flying off the fireplace, and it cracked. The cap of my fireplace was a piece of limestone, actually cracked, and a piece shot up about 50 feet in the air and came back down. And that all had to do with the rapid expansion of the heat from that fire, and it just blew everything off the wall. So the change in temperatures, a drastic change in temperature, can really affect things. And
think about a glass bowl that's cold, and then you pour hot soup in, or or the other way around. You have a hot bowl that you just had hot soup in, and you put cold water on it, it could just fracture.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that neat how molecules work? And I mean, that's science stuff.
Yeah. Unless you have Pyrex, I think Pyrex can handle a lot of that. I saw a video. Do you ever see those shows and how things are made? Love those shows.
Yeah, I've
And
seen those, how things are made. Yeah.
yeah, and they had one like on making Pyrex, and it was very detailed. It was really cool how they do it.
What I don't understand is how can Pyrex be in a, what is it, 600-degree boiling oven, but you can't sit it on a burner?
Oh, I think they explain that in there.
Do they? Okay. I don't understand that. I don't know. I know you can't do it. I do know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that
direct heat
is brings the temperature up. It's like PSI, right? If floor can handle a certain amount of pressure, but if someone's in high heels and it's like real direct,
maybe yeah. I guess that makes sense.
It just brings it past the breaking point.
If anybody out there wants to tell us how Pyrex works, I need to know, because I didn't see the thing. But
yeah, you should watch it. It was pretty nerdy, but it was good.
So you have something to look forward to. You've got a new video coming down the training pipe for movement joints, and I'll go a little bit into lattice heel. And on the 21st, we have our training on it. But I thought it'd be an interesting topic to bring up tonight. So thanks for indulging me.
Do you have are there any other things that can happen to a tile floor with drastic temperature changes? And I'm not talking about movement joints, but is there anything else that can happen to a floor if you have that, like, freezing at night and the day?
I mean,
really hot.
I mean, you actually could have, other than, the tile can fracture. You can have delaminating, where maybe the mortar breaks loose of the bond from the tile.
Right.
So then you could have a hollow spot. I do believe that you would need some sort of force on it. So I do think the movement joint would take care of most of that. The biggest thing for temperature change, like if it's outside or even if it's inside, if you've got a temperature change in a material that has moisture in it, that's disaster right there. That's what we call in the industry freeze thaw. It gets enough moisture in it, and we all know that when water freezes, it expands.
Right.
And so when it expands, and if it's inside something and it expands, it can blow it apart.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's left a can of Coke in the freezer, right? And then
that's right.
Or a bottle. You ever go chill a bottle of low alcoholic beverage, not their tequila that you drink all the time, but
vodka. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So if you have freeze thaw is kind of a term that we use in the industry, that something should be freeze thaw stable, meaning if you have a tile and then moisture gets into the pores and then it happens to freeze, and that temperature change creates the water to expand, and then it cracks the tile. So the freeze thaw term, meaning that, and usually it means that the tile has such low porosity that there's not enough water to get in the tile, or no water gets in the tile. So when it is being exposed to these temperatures, there's not enough water in there to expand and break a tile. So it could freeze, it could thaw, it could freeze, it could thaw. And those are cycles. And aren't they measured in cycles? Like, it has how many cycles it can go through without cracking or something to that effect?
I'm going to say yes, but I don't know.
Good answer. Yeah. So
you're correct, John.
Well, that's an assumption. That's a good bet.
Bet. I think it is measured in cycles. I don't know how many there are, but and I get that question asked a lot. Hey, can I use this tile outside? If it's a porcelain tile, odds are yes, and that's the easy knee-jerk rule of thumb answer.
I got a question the other day, and it's not the first time I've gotten it. Hey, can I use this porcelain tile in front of a fireplace? Mm-hmm. And this is from a designer, and the contractor was like, "Is this fire rated?" And I'm like, I said, yes, you can use the tile is produced at 2,200 degrees. So if the outside of your fireplace is getting to be 2,000 degrees plus, you probably have a large fire happening in your
You've
house.
got bigger issues.
Yeah. So, but it is amazing. I mean, we understand why people ask that because they're thinking fireplace, but no one, unless in your scenario where you're cranking up 4 crates of wood in a fireplace, no one has a fireplace that you're like, oh, don't touch the mantle because it's too hot. I mean, typically it's not,
Right.
So everything's contained for the most
Yep.
part within the fireplace, except for what's being emitted out, but that's somewhat controlled or by design. But it's not like the whole house wall is getting to be heated up.
Yeah.
I guess there's insulation of some sort, right? Inside the fireplace, there's the flue and there's
Mhm.
all that good stuff.
Yeah, fireplaces are built for the heat to come out the front of it and the excess to go up the chimney, and for nothing to be hot to the touch, and so they're built well. But you're right. I mean, you could tile the inside of a fireplace and it's not going to hurt anything. Now, it's not going to look good ever again. And the reason I tell our team not to do that is because I don't know what the structure is. I don't know what the setting materials are. I can confirm that the tile will not catch on fire or melt, but I have no idea, and that's not a good idea unless it's meant for a fireplace.
Yeah, well,
inside
there's things called fire bricks, right? And
that's
I'm
right.
not quite sure how different they are from regular bricks.
I don't know that they're that much different, because I will say, and maybe this is the reason my fireplace exploded outside, is we used regular bricks when I built my fireplace outside. And maybe not fire. Maybe if we'd used fire bricks, it'd been okay. I don't know, but I really think it was the fuel that we had in there. But
that's definitely likely. So look, we learned about movement joints today, and it's important. A lot of guys don't know. A lot of people don't know about movement joints. Some people that are in the residential realm are not necessarily in tune with this because they not typically don't have 100-foot rooms or rooms that kind of really need it. And I'm sure there are some residential jobs that could use some movement joints. I mean, like in the middle of the floor, but it's really more, you're really talking more about where the wall, 2 planes meet. I think you put it right. So
the biggest residential failure that I see, and I probably see it weekly, is the joint between the countertop and the tile backsplash. Anytime you don't, number one, leave enough room for the caulk, you just set your tile directly on the countertop and then try to caulk it. That does nothing. Or you leave the room and you grout it. Those are the 2 mistakes I see all the time, and both of those times that you're going to have some sort of a failure. And
wait, what do you mean leave the room and grout it? Oh, you mean leave the space and grout it?
They leave the space and then just grout it. I
visualized somebody walking out of the room and then come back and grouting it. I'm like, what is that? What do you mean?
No, they space it correctly, but then they just grout it instead of using.
That's terrible because well, first place, just from this like staining perspective, I don't care what kind of grout you have. Like typically, if it's cementitious of some sort, even if you're sealing it, like you have a lot of gunk hitting that corner. You spill something, it's going to go in that joint. So so I agree wholeheartedly that the movement joint or soft sealer like a silicone should go there. I mean, I'm sure you would recommend an acrylic or acrylic late silicone as opposed to grout, right? That's still better than
absolutely. That would be a step down from the silicone, but still better than grout or nothing. Yep.
And are you doing that? So should the grout be dried before you do that? Because you don't want to stop playing around with putting a silicone while something's still wet, like grout.
Yeah. I would say you need to be done, or I've done it. I've caulked it first and then grouted. I've done it. I forget why I did that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, this is never done this way. Why do you do? And I couldn't think of a good reason why it wasn't. So,
but you still waited for the caulk or silicone to dry.
Whatever goes first got to cure, or you're going to make a mess.
Yeah, I'm wondering why. I think the silicone could give something, or a soft seal could give something smooth finished look. So when you grout, sometimes it's slightly rough on the edge. So I think to do it last, it kind of gives you that opportunity to kind of like, I don't know, go across. But we learned a lot. So lattice seal is the caulking. I'm going to use the word caulk, but
everybody does.
So
The official that it should be called sealant, but every time I say sealant, people think of sealer, and that's not
right,
correct.
you're thinking a liquid in a bottle, but no one
Right.
says go get the silicone gun.
That's true. It is a caulk gun. Yeah. But
So
you're right.
I think you should create silicone guns and patent it and be like, why didn't I think of this? You know,
That's right.
why didn't someone else think of this? Let's make a silicone gun.
We can put a little spray bottle in the bottom, and we'll get Adam to get us the denatured alcohol. So it's the silicone gun, and it's got the denatured alcohol already loaded into it.
And then a little attachment for the little airplane bottle of vodka with a straw. So you can
Exactly.
cooking, and you can drink, and you can cook, and you can do everything with it. All right, get on that, Craig.
I'm working. I'll work on that tonight while I scroll in the bed.
Exactly. Well, you know what? This is the Tile Happy Hour. We're glad that you're here. So if you're listening to the show now, you're probably a tile nerd or a tile geek, or you're extremely high and just happened to come across and thought this was really interesting, just like an unboxing event, right? You like someone watching somebody unbox their new,
Yes.
you know, whatever computer. So we do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m., 8 to 9, roughly. No hard stop, but we really happy that you're here and that you're watching with us and you're joining with us. Do comment where you're watching from, even if you're watching this now and the show has already ended and it's, you know, you're watching a encore version of this. Then do comment where you're watching from. Send us questions. You could send them right on the feeds that you're watching on, or send us a private message through those platforms, and we'll absolutely get back to you. We're here to help. We're here to help your tile project be successful and look great for, you know, as long as you want it to. You don't want it to fail and have to replace something. I love when people say, "Oh, I hate taking out this bathroom. It's just in good condition, but you know, when was it done? It was like 1973, and it's lime green, and it's just amazing. Nothing else in the world lasts that long other than tile, you know, as far as I know. So it's really, you don't see ancient ruins with, hey, look at this old carpet floor they had from Rome. You know,
that LVT they put in really lasts.
All that LVT disappeared from Roman times. But tile and stone and glass exists. So Craig, it's been really good. Thanks for all your technical knowledge. This is definitely your expertise. So it's glad to learn some things myself tonight, and glad to share my knowledge with everyone. This is the Tile Happy Hour. My name is John Tedisco, and I'd like to wish you guys peace, health, and happiness.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, this is next show. We'll have to dig into your product and design knowledge, but I say this every week, and because I'm a nerd about things, I always want to keep learning and trying to find out new things. And I hope that you learned something, and let us know if you did. And as always, keep learning together, and let's tile the world.